So the importance of the dance movement is just as important as the trick itself coming from circus. And to really wash these lines away took many years. Creating a movement or creating a choreography is not only, and for me especially, not only about physicality, but many times it's our creations and our choreographies are born from thoughts. We are trying to give the chance to circus artists where they can think about their bodies in a more abstract way that they thought before was possible.
Welcome to the StageLink podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the StageLink podcast. My name is Anna Robb, and today we're speaking with Bence Vági. Bence is the founder and artistic director of Recirquel Company with a background in modern and classical dance. Bence is a director, choreographer whose innovative approach to performing arts redefines the magic of theatre and circus in an original way for the contemporary audience. He has by now become one of the most defining figures of the international performing arts scene and the acclaimed representative of Hungarian circus and performing arts. Welcome to the show, Bence.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So you founded Recirquel in 2012, and it's sort of quickly become a big force. In your original vision, how has Recirquel evolved over the past decade?
I think, it was a dream that was kind of sleeping within me for a long time, because as I was a dancer, I always had this vision of creating performances and working with dancers. But I had actually, before founding the company, circus was only kind of passing through my dance creations. It was, whether it was the atmosphere or it was research that was connected with circus, but I never dreamt to have amazing circus artists. So I always kind of forced my dancers to do something that was circus-like. I really liked the approach of having apparatuses. So even when I was doing dance choreographies, even if it was a chair, it was any kind of object, I kind of had this inner urge to be using them as they would be apparatuses, equipments in circus. The journey was long, and actually it was for me the first time having been at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and also the International Festival. And that was for me the first time to kind of witness contemporary dance and contemporary circus and live music and everything that I've so much loved to come together. And I think probably one of the first shows I saw was by No Fit State Circus. And it was really an amazing show. And that just, kind of whispered into my ears, like, okay, you could be doing work with circus artists because you really do love this art form. And that's when I got back to Hungary and I was looking if there was any form of, I knew there was a traditional circus. We had like the National Hungarian Circus, but I didn't know that we had a circus school because I was dance. And when you're into dance, you're into dance. And then I got a acrobat school and I was speaking to the teachers and to some of the students. I was really curious if there was some artists that were kind of keen of doing something out of the box. And that's how I got to know 12 artists. And we kicked off doing a performance for Sziget Festival, which is a huge music and theater festival taking place once a year in Budapest on a big island. And we created our very first show that actually was named Recirquel. So the first show had the name of the company, because at that time we didn't know this is going to be a company or this is going to become a company. So yes, it was a kind of coincidental and not coincidental faith finding. So yeah, and then for me, dance was something that couldn't be left behind. So from the very first day, I was there with my circus artist, and I said, okay, well, if you work with me, you have to have ballet classes in the morning. And they were like, so I ran to the studio every morning I was teaching them dance. And I think this thought, even though it grew slow and grew in 5-7 years, where the form of cirque dance would come to life, but it was already there in the moment of birth, that dance and circus had to meet in a way that probably they haven't met before, not in this way. So, yeah.
That's interesting that you say that you're going to teach them ballet lessons, because I think that a lot of circus people in, say, Cirque du Soleil shows end up doing some kind of movement or dance or choreography in their shows. But, making a circus artist to actually do ballet, it's a formal discipline, right? So did you find that once they started to do ballet, that their circus skills evolved in a particular way? Or how did the ballet classes and the dance influence work on their circus component?
I think it was a long, 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 long journey again, because I think when we speak about dance from the perspective of circus, sometimes dance becomes some kind of decoration or some kind of another element to add to the tricks, but it's not a tool that gets immersed into the body of the artist. And for us, it was really important to immerse it. So actually, when you see our performers, you're not able to tell where does a trick start and where does it, merge into dance. So the importance of the dance movement is just as important as the trick itself coming from circus, and to kind of really wash these lines away took many years. So obviously there were artists who didn't feel comfortable with that, because it is very hard for the body, once you've trained the body for a certain kind of circus discipline, then to alter the body one more time is kind of like burning the candle from two sides, is really, really hard. And so in this way, we really had to find artists over the years. The artists as well grew strong, who wanted to stick with us and stay with us, grew strong in dance. And, some artists said, okay, that's not their kind of cup of tea, so they wouldn't continue. But by now, obviously, we have 35 amazing artists who are very comfortable in the discipline. Or if they're not, then we do take the time as a company, which is really important about Recirquel, that we pay a lot of attention to education. So when we take an artist into the company, then we think long term. So we think 2, 3, 5 years in an artist, and seeing how we can invest into that artist, teach, educate that artist. And, we also learn about that artist, because probably we haven't had that circus genre before. So we haven't understood yet how that circus genre will react together with dance. So kind of, obviously there are similarities if you're looking at aerial artists, but now we have a big group of artists who are doing Russian swing, who are completely different in their bodies, but they knew what they would sign up for. So now they are really, they're sweating. They're having like contemporary dance classes. They have like contact improvisational dance classes, ballet classes. So I think it's a beautiful but very tough process, I guess.
It's so interesting. You're creating a sort of a new kind of hybrid performer in that sense, in terms of very niche discipline. So if you're taking things like Russian swing artists and they're taking dance classes, and you have a troupe that have a certain set of skills, how then do you formulate your shows or create, and what drives the decision of what show gets made and the thematic and what's put in that show? What's the creative process like for Recirquel?
The creations, for me, they seem like a series of novels. So they really connect with each other. So from the birth moment of Solus, which was a duet show, that was the first kind of show that really outlined our artistic of cirque dance, because we had one dancer and one circus artist, and they had been crossed for a good couple of 4 or 5 years. And it was a duet between them. That show was also actually going to BAM in New York. And that show really taught us how we could deal with this style. And then from Solus, for me to find a new topic or a new performance takes a very long time, maybe sometimes even 2 or 3 years. I usually go away. I go away really far, and I usually enter deserts. quite lonesome for even 2 or 3 or even a month. And I always like to say that deserts are kind of very similar as theaters. They are a vast empty space, which you have to fill with your imagination. And it's really nice to listen and hear your own voice. And maybe it's not even your own voice, I would presume. And then the subjects of a new show start to open up. And I always test ideas. So, when ideas do stick with you, I kind of follow them and trace them. And then if they really stick, then, then I start my research that goes really deep. And that's how the topics come up. But when I look at the row of shows from the birth moment of Non-Solus into Solus Amor, then Ima, and now Paradisum, these shows have a really connective relationship with each other. So when you watch them together, you always see that these shows have a very special connection.
You've got a new one coming up, though, called Walk My World, correct? That's opening soon.
Yes.
And that's quite an ambitious project in a sense that's a big immersive experience, from what I understand, with multiple spaces and multiple performances going on. So tell us about this concept and how this came about.
So Walk My World, I guess, again, I have to just jump back a little bit because even when doing dance creations in my early years, I was obsessed with immersiveness. I think back in those days, maybe only for me, but the word immersive didn't have any meaning. But what I knew from my research into cabaret and variety theater and my creations, I always wanted to bring the audience close to the performers. And my very first show that I created was called Obscenes. We had created, the audience was already sitting on stage at tables and they were kind of merged into the performance. And later on, all this kind of research continued and we created a show called Krista, which is an immersive show. And then later on, Ima, which is an installation space where people get to be in this dark space where you can't see the actual endings with millions of holes, where beams of light pierce through, and you have this floating energy flying with one aerial performer. So immersiveness kind of was a rediscovery within the style of Cirque dance for us. So we created Cirque dance, and then we thought, okay, how can we bring this style closer? And then came this very ambitious dream to create a huge immersive show. I think the first time that Walk My Word had ever been, the title of the show has ever been written down was about 7 years ago, or maybe even 8. And ever since we've been dreaming to create a huge immersive show that could be done with circus artists, but still carrying through their characters and telling a storyline with installations just as Ima. Well, Ima is like one installation with 100 people. Now in Walk My Word, we have 40 installations, and the space is about 6,500 square meters, which is a huge industrial building, which we've been designing for the past 5 years. And now it's under construction. And actually, we're going to have our first this Friday.
Oh, it's this soon, is it? I thought it was later. So
rehearsal this Friday. Well, I mean, in the space, we've been rehearsing from 2 months back. But yes, Walk My World is definitely going to be probably the largest immersive show in Europe, but I would even say that right now in the world, it will be amongst the largest, and with an amazing team. I must say, this is not me. This is an amazing team working with me. It's close to 100 people with all the cast members, a design team, and an amazing composers and technicians. It's magical. When you step into the space, you have this feeling of being inside of a movie. Our design team who are producing our set have been creating the set for the movies of Dune and also Blade Runner 49. So these films have been produced in Hungary. So this atmosphere of this kind of a bit of a bit sci-fi like industrial world creates a mythological world where audiences will be able to enter from this November.
And is the audience experience somewhere where they walk through at their own leisure, or are they guided through that experience in groups? How does the sort of audience experience work?
It's absolutely their own leisure. So we are planning with about having 400 audience members entering a night. And yes, they'll be able to enter the space and discover everything as they like and move through the space as they want, which is very interesting because circus is a form that really connects to the moment. The trick and everything is a very present thing. And we had to find artists that could carry a 1-hour narrative with including circus, but also dancing and acting through all these scenes that connect these mythological stories. This story is based upon the Aeneid, which is the story of Aeneas and Dido, which is Virgil's amazing epos. So it's really to describe. Obviously, we have these two major cities in the storyline. We have the burned city of Troy, and we have a huge labyrinth, which is about 800 square meters, dividing the two cities from each other, where obviously the labyrinth is a kind of a symbol of the sea, because when these characters like Aeneas, or when you look at the Odyssey, you go on the sea is something which always takes you into a different realm, into a different world. It creates new reality. So the audience, as they go into the labyrinth, they have the chance to end up in absolutely different part of the installation. The installation has 2 levels. And the other city where they can arrive is the city of Carthage, the home of Dido, the queen. And yes, and in between there are, about, as I said, 40 installations where you can get lost and, see the show from many different perspectives. If you like, you can be following the character of Venus, or you can follow the Minotaur and see the whole storyline from the perspective of just one performer, or rush from scene to scene as you like.
That sounds so intriguing. I really would love to walk through that. And the experiences, you said it happens in the evening. So are they the performers in that space for like 3 or 4 hours as people are walking through? Or are they performing for the whole time, or how does that?
No.
I'm always fascinated about the functionality of it.
No, it's planned to last 2 hours. So the audience has a chance to be walking through and being part of the show for 2 hours. And we're still trying to balance everything, in order as well to keep safety a very important perspective, because as circus is circus, we have, people flying, and not just one, but 3 people flying above audience. We have installations where there are like, people jumping from rooftops, doing parkour. And so it's really interesting how you can bring circus close, even though, circus is being performed on streets, but obviously not with every genre, because not every genre can be performed on a kind of street setting. But here, the circus will be really, really, just a reach away. So we have a lot of precautions, how to handle the public and how to bring safety to them and also bring safety to our artists. I think we have investigated so many things and so many health and safety issues. So I think that's something we already started from day one to think about. And obviously, as we have been doing immersive circus productions in the past 7 years, we have gathered some information that will help us. But it's still, it's still
it's still ambitious. But like you said, you've had the practice though, right? You've done some immersive experiences. When you're bringing performers and public in close proximity to each other, there's always a lot of safety factors that have to be considered in that sort of thing. I wanted to go back to, you were talking about bringing people into Recirquel and people who are happy to take on the dance component of their circus discipline or vice versa. What are you looking for in terms of company members and for those people who are trying to get into the industry? Because it's not just about their skill set, it's about how they're going to be part of the company, right? And how they're going to be part of a team for a certain period of time if you're going to recruit them for 3 to 5 years, So what kind of people are you seeking, and what skills are you looking for? What personalities do you like to include in your company?
I mean, as Recirquel just 2 months ago, we have been only 15 people. And, the people who've been in our company have been here for 7, 8 years, some even 12 or 13. It was really important to execute the castings with my team. So with some of the artists, to look at the personalities. I think for us, obviously, as in every casting, talent plays a huge role. But for us, it was really important to find the psychological balance of finding people where we could feel their devotion and, I mean, I don't know how to say it in a good way, but kind of an egolessness to be people who, because I think we always try to stay when it comes to working together and sharing space together to be really humble. And sometimes being humble, I think, can carry you much further than just putting everything out and being too loud or too noisy. Our work is quite deep. And I also like to work quite in a very sensitive and silent way. I don't like to push people. I like to have conversation with people. And for that, you kind of need a certain type of intellectual level as well to feel, that creating a movement or creating a choreography is not only, and for me, especially not only about physicality, but many times it's our creations and our choreographies are born from thoughts. And when I see the artists who work with their characters, analyze their characters, they work psychologically with the role that they're given, right? Because these are roles, these are characters, these are not just, and I'm not saying just a circus act, but to do an 8-minute circus act or carry out a 1-hour loop in a performer where you have to be present all the time is a very different mindset. So it was really important for us to find people where we could have conversation with and see. And sometimes, yes, it wasn't just, saying, oh, this artist is the most amazing, circus performer doing Chinese pole, but finding a person with sensitivity and also finding people who were matching with our team. And I think that's 14 years of working with people. And actually, I must say right now we are amazed because we are now 35 and the atmosphere is fantastic. And the people have come together from all around the world, from Chile, Brazil, United States, Australia, Canada, Germany, Austria, Ukraine, Hungary. I hope I didn't forget any countries I should mention, but this is now right now the majority and a huge international team. And I find that even our company policies of how we have a very free space for our artists with very strict regulations of safety, of how we use our rehearsal space, or how we use equipment, or how we fly people in the air. It's really, I think it had to be 14 years to arrive to this point. And I think that's really important to say, of not wanting to grow too fast, because I think we could have not achieved this 5 years ago back. But now I feel the company is ripe enough to say, yes, we can integrate more people and we can give safety to these people and we can show them how Recirquel works, why dance is important for us. And all these people who have arrived into the company, you suddenly saw also a set of an amazing circus artists who've been doing, huge international tours and success in festivals where circus has never entered before. And that's kind of Recirquel of, pushing circus towards the high arts. And it's not a hidden goal for us to prove, to arrive to a dance festival in Cannes and where circus has never entered, and suddenly programmers to realize and give permission for circus to enter for cirque dance or circus in general, because circus is not that far from dance and it's just been categorized too much into a very commercial aspect. And, still big festivals like Avignon In Festival, not the Avignon Off, but Avignon In Festival, or I could name tons of these festivals. They're still, not allowing contemporary circus to be entering these festivals, which I think is a very sad approach, because me, as having been a dancer, I think that, the sacrifice or the life or the learning that you spend of learning circus isn't of any difference. And maybe, yes, the way of expression is more thicker lines, because circus defines itself or draws itself with thicker lines than dance, because obviously dance has a more abstract shape. But, you can overcome that. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the chance to circus artists where they can think about their bodies in a more abstract way that they thought before was possible.
I love that, because I think also there is a tendency to sort of silo into different categories, right? And yet, as we expand in terms of our own creativity, and as you're doing into the immersive sort of space and the experiences, you're bringing new technologies and new ways of doing things, but also the new ways of using the body. So that, and I know that there's even like been on some Broadway shows and stuff, people bringing circus elements into the Broadway space with mixed sort of reception as well. But I mean, everything is kind of cross-pollinating in the technology realm, and it's the same thing that should be in the physical realm of being able to bring theatre, dance, Broadway musicals, and start to utilize and cross-pollinate some of those disciplines to enhance the storytelling and the narrative. So I'm with you. I think I love when I've worked in some circus shows where there's been a lot of choreographers involved and people working on the artistry of what they're doing, not just the acrobatic component, and how much more of an expansive artist that person becomes because of all of those dance and acting principles that also get incorporated into their work, So it's really interesting. I wanted to ask you too, in terms of sort of technology or automation and the circus component, is there a lot of automated, is there winches and stuff, or is it manual in Walk My World? Like, how is the technology incorporated into this immersive experience?
Absolutely. We have an amazing technical director called Tomáš Vladar, and he's been designing our winches since 10 years in the company. He's been working with the most fine winch developing studios here in Hungary and also abroad, and has developed computer program that can really, knock on wood, but really can millimeter by millimeter define heights and speed. And our soundless winches, they don't hardly give any sound when moving artists. And we've been incorporating these winches into artistic work because these winches enable us a completely different visual of lifting aerialists. And even people who've been only lifted in their lives mostly by, manual by other people have come to Recirquel and now completely trust this system. And so far we've always reinvested in developing these winches further and further. And I think we love technology in Recirquel, but we love theater, and we never want to move the reality of theater into kind of like a movie-like world. Movie-like, I mean, using projections of whatever. We like to create water with paper cuts on stage. We like to bring in something that is very traditional theater and make that traditional idea into something spectacular that in the end looks like a vision, like an unreal thing. Like, it's, for example, the best example is like IMA, when you walk into the space and there's simply just about 8 to 10 million holes pierced into a circus chapiteau. It's a black chapiteau, and outside we have another circus tent, and between the two layers we have a system that is flying lamps. Actually, the same winches that are flying the artists are flying the lamps. So the artist and the lamps are completely in unison. And as the lamps fly, they fly with the artist. So these holes that are pierced with light through, as the lamps are being moved, they move in the exact same speed as the artist in the air. And this, when you are inside the chapiteau, creates this illusion of flying in the universe. And the points are shifting inside. And in the end, it's just smoke and holes, obviously. But outside, the system being flown with the lamps is a different ballgame. But when you go and touch, people come up when the show ends, and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, ask, how is this done? And we say, oh, it's just tiny holes pierced with nails. And then I go, no. I think that's Recirquel. It's combining something very simple and being able to change perspective. on a thing that is probably very casual or very daily like, and bring that to life. Like in Paradisum, our new touring show, we have a huge black cloth that is a piece of fabric or textile redesigned by our amazing designer Emese Kosa. And she, pierced this and knitted this and made it into basically a fabric sculpture, a puppet. And then 12 inches move this fabric where it becomes a snake, or it becomes a mountain, or it becomes a cave. So, but in the end, it's just a square piece of fabric. And we managed to light this piece of fabric in millions of different ways. And people in the end of the show, they just don't believe. And people come up and ask, what is this? What is shape? What's that puppet? And we say, this thing is just that one piece of fabric manipulated all the way through. Sometimes it's being taken off and the artists crawl underneath and they just manipulate the fabric itself, and then they hook it back up, and suddenly it became this flying monster in the air. So yeah, there is technology, but then there is again there is puppet theater, and there is this very tasteable, biteable reality of old theater, which I love.
I love that too, because, I think that there's so many beautiful theatrical tricks that don't cost the earth, that are just magical for people, and even kind of unique in the space that we're kind of bombarded with technology and spectacle. And I remember when I was a child and I was a teen, I went and saw a play called The Woman in Black. I don't know if you know it. It's a 3-person play, and its whole premise, it's a scary play because the idea of it is that if you see the woman in black, your firstborn child will die, right? But the whole show uses very, very simple theatrical tricks to scare the hell out of you in terms of the way that the light is used, and they're running around the stage and suddenly the spotlight comes up and she's in the middle of the stage. And whenever I'm creating big spectacles now or big shows and we're getting lost, I think of that show, because I'm thinking, like, let's go back to theatrical basics, because you can create so much entertainment with all of those simple tricks that we learn as in our theatre crafts at university and that sort of things.
Well, you're right. Like for me, I always feel directors forget the most that you have darkness on stage. And with darkness, you can just disguise so many things, even though we have sometimes in our shows, we have a huge reset in the back, which is only like 2 meters behind the small polar bear that's jumping on stage in a very small light. And everybody's watching the small polar bear. In the back, if you switch on the lights, there is about 12 performers and 6 stagehands rigging up
frantically doing something else.
The air, who will just appear for the final scene of Solus Amor. And, but people are there to believe in magic and to see magic, and they don't want to see the rigging. They want to see the polar bear. Maybe there's some small noise, you can hear, but I think to make everything disappear, or wanting everything to disappear, also kind of makes the theater disappear. And I think that's why, yes, you can use technology, but I think it's really important not wanting to compete all the time with movie. It's producing as well musicals, that have been existing as movies. I mean, I know they're successful and, people go and watch them, but I think it's not the duty of theater to compete with cinema. And I think you have to, you can, and you mustn't, but you can choose separate ways, because when people go to theater, they want to see, I don't know, 4 humans in a puppet, pretending to be an elephant, speaking of Lion King, and they don't mind to see the feet of those humans being, or those dancers being inside of that whatever puppet, they want to see the elephant that is walking through stage, and not the people or the performers who are moving in it, because I think that's the magic of theater.
Totally agree. 100%. Bence, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for spending some time with us on the StageLink podcast. I wish you all the best for Walk My World. I can't wait to see how it's received, and good luck with the next steps on that.
Hope to welcome you here in Budapest. I think it will be a nice moment to catch.
Oh, I would love to get over there. So if I'm in Europe, I am definitely heading your way. I would love to see that. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the StageLink podcast. StageLink is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLink Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLink podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLink Pro membership. Visit us at stagelink.com and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLink, that's STAGELYNC.com.